Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. Super excited to have my buddy Matthew here to talk today. He runs a pretty impressive business, has a nice rental portfolio, and built a lot of it while he was still employed with a W-2 job and just recently jumped off into full-time. So we're going to be talking about, when the right time to jump off is if you're still employed, and then how to scale your business. He's really has an engineering mindset and thinks a lot about how to build his business up, and has gone from a one-man band with actually a nice rental portfolio, actually more than most of us, more than me, and just was doing everything himself, and just recently started to kind of beef up his team. So we're going to jump into those today. Professional real estate investors know that it's not really about the real estate. In fact, real estate is just a vehicle to freedom. A group of over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors from across the country meet several times a year at the Investor Fuel Real Estate Mastermind to share ideas on how to strengthen each other's businesses, but also to come together as friends and build more fulfilling lives for all of those around us. On today's show, we're going to continue our conversation of fueling our businesses and fueling our lives. I'm glad you're here. Matthew, what's going on, my friend?
Mike, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, great to see you. You're one of those guys that you joined the group, and I won't say how many rental properties you have, but you kind of got up in front of the room, and nobody, I don't think a lot of our members knew who you were at that point. And you just like, yeah, here's what I've been doing while I've got a job. And everybody was just like, what the heck is going on here? And you're like, is that good? And we're like, oh, that's awesome, dude. So super humble and excited to have you here with us today.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, I'm excited to be here and share a little bit. So
yeah. So tell us a little bit about your background, like how you got. I know you just recently left your W-2 job after really a long time. But kind of tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, sure thing. So I am a chemical engineer by trade. I was in the industry for 12 years for a large Fortune 500 chemical company. And I really found real estate investing actually outside of the United States. So I found it in Spain. I was doing a master's, and that's where I really understood the business mindset. The thing about engineering that I think is so applicable to business is there's a certain set of rules and principles, like gravity makes stuff go down. And if you understand those principles and rules, it's the same in business. And I was able to take those principles, apply them to business. And there's a formula. And if you understand that formula and you can apply it, the results take care of themselves. So I'm an engineer by trade, but I kind of stumbled into business. And I've been buying rentals in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania since 2014. And now I'm a full-time real estate investor.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you're so right. I have a financial background, not an engineering background, but I think in terms of systems and processes, and we're always focused on that. And even though a lot of real estate investors, even some very successful real estate investors, understand that, they just can't get out of their own way sometimes at building those systems and processes. And so, like you said, there is a formula. This business is actually not that complicated at all. But sometimes we're small and we don't really have big enough teams to where it just never becomes, you're constantly kind of putting out a fire or dealing with the issue of the day instead of kind of building those things. And so I think that engineering mindset really helps you with, just understanding that it's a formula and there's a series of systems and processes that you have to do to run a successful business. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yep. And so let's talk about that transition. So you said you started buying about 9 years ago. Is that right?
Yep, that's about right. Yep.
Okay.
2014.
So you started buying rentals in 2014, it's 2023 now. So, and it just didn't occur to you for a long period of time of maybe I could do this full time. Like when did that happen for you?
Yeah. So the premise behind keeping my job, and initially when getting started, it was really just about bankability and showing the bank I have a solid W-2 income. And they're looking for other means of repayment after the property. So really for me, people look at, well, the job is holding me back. And I looked at the job as a way to get money, not just a W-2 wage, but bank money. And so for me, that was leverage. It was financial leverage. And so fortunately, I had a high paying W-2 salary and the banks loved it. And so as the market was going up from 2015 through currently, they were willing to refinance and do other things because I had that income. So that job for me was really that was the leverage point. I didn't want to leave that too soon because it was such an advantage. I saw other investors getting started and they were kind of plateauing, maybe they get 10, 15 deals or whatever. But then they couldn't really get past it because they couldn't, and maybe it was a system or process issue, but I just didn't want to be able to run out of money. I always wanted the banks to be there. And so for me, that was my job. So,
and you're right. When you go out on your own, I mean, when I first started, so it's been, over 15 years ago now, I don't know, something like that, a long time. And we went in cold turkey, and you're right. We went from having high paying jobs to like, banks aren't even willing to talk to us until we have 2 years of experience with tax returns and all that. And so,
right.
It's a real thing, right? So,
right. What I wanted to do was, I wanted to build the real estate business and the rental business alongside of my job so that I could say, well, I have 9 years of experience in this business by the time I was full time in it. You could go back as far as you want with my tax returns and you'll see the experience. So I just wanted to have that credibility and reputation with my lenders before going to ask for money without that experience. I just wanted to have it right out of the gate when I quit my job. Yeah. So, which I do.
Yeah.
Now, so,
and when you first joined Investor Fuel, like last summer,
mm-hmm.
you were still employed. And so you were like one of those people that were there. Like, I can't name any, there's probably a couple others, but I can't name anybody else that has a W-2 job. They're all pretty much full-time people. And so not that was the catalyst for you leaving your job. You probably got a little bit of validation there that you should consider it, right?
Right.
How did you make the decision to jump off full-time and then how would you advise other people if they kind of ask that question, like, when is the time right?
Yeah, no, it's a personal decision, but for me, there were 4 things, and I had to choose 3 of them. It was my business, my family, my job, and sleep, and I had to choose 3. And I chose, I can't exclude my family. I couldn't, I needed to sleep just for health reasons. I didn't want to give up real estate because I saw what the returns were like. So I said, there's only so much time in a day, and I finally chose the job. Now, but that was after 9 years of experience in this business and building a rental business on the side. And there just wasn't enough time. I mean, the writing was on the wall. I actually kept it probably longer than I should have, but we were moving. So I wanted to use the W-2 wages to qualify for a primary residence loan. And there were personal reasons, but I mean, so for the listeners, I mean, it's really depends on your risk appetite. Obviously, Mike, you kind of quit cold turkey and I was, easing in. I don't think there's a right or wrong way, but I would say make sure you're bankable, make sure you have liquidity, and make sure you have experience and know-how, so that you don't get to the promised land of no job and find out, I can't get a loan, or I can't find deals. Right. So right. You have to be prepared and have a plan.
And I think for a lot of people too, like that, you have to be willing to work 2 full-time jobs for a while, right? You have to be willing.
Yeah.
You can't just like come home from your W-2 job and like watch TV for 6 hours and like push off your dreams, right? You have to be willing to kind of build one up to where it gets to the point to where you obviously have a higher level of confidence that you see the vision for what it can become, and you build up another stream of income. So you know that, hey, I'm just going to replace this with that, right? You have to kind of see that vision, right?
Oh, that's absolutely right. And you have to take a little bit of risk too. Like if you're at a full-time job, I was ducking into conference rooms to take seller calls, and I was walking over lunch and just calling sellers, for an hour. And it was hot out there. It was cold, and but you can't call in the building. So you have to like work your way around it, but you have to be tenacious in that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really is double hatting. Like you're not coming home and watching TV. You're building stuff, you're rolling out systems and processes, you're calling sellers, and you're working 2 full-time jobs for a while if you take the path I did.
And
but it's less risk.
And the interesting thing about you is you were keeping them all as rentals. Like you weren't essentially wholesaling or were you doing any fix and flips at all? Was it all?
No.
It was 100% rentals. Yeah.
100%
so
rentals.
You were advertising, you were generating leads. And if it didn't make sense as a rental, then you just passed on it.
Correct. Yeah. So I was sending letters. I had no online presence because I didn't want my boss or, coworkers finding me. So I was mailing all these letters, and, no one ever brought a letter to work and said, hey, what's this? No one, it didn't come full circle, which is fortunate, but yeah, it was kind of under the table for a long time.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. So then let's talk about, you were doing this almost all yourself, like skeleton crew. It's just you and you're part-time, right? built up a nice rental portfolio over the years. And now, you've been focused a lot on scaling, right? Putting people in place so that you can buy your time back and you have a young family, all those things. So let's talk a little bit about kind of scaling. So you've gone just in the past like few months, you've gone from essentially a one-man band to a small team of people that you're
Yep.
using to kind of one scale to buy your time back, right?
Yep. Yep. That's right.
Talk about that a little
So
bit.
yeah, sure. So I was a solopreneur for a long time, and it was because I was only pursuing the deals that we were going to buy and hold, like we just said.
Right.
Now that's still the case, but we're doing more volume, and so I can't be sending out the marketing letters and working on SEO stuff and our PPC ads and taking all the calls and then following up on all the calls. There's too many tasks
Yeah.
at scale. And so I've hired a lead manager. I also have a documentation and marketing coordinator. And then there's basically a full-time 1099 that's pulling all these lists in the public data: who didn't pay their mortgage, who didn't pay their taxes, who has credit card judgments and a property, who owes the IRS, who owes the Pennsylvania Department of State, who owes money, right?
Yeah.
So that's a full-time job. And getting that data into our CRM, letters sent out, calls come in. There's so many of these tasks, and hopefully we can unpack some of that. But I was doing what I could with some help, but it was burning me out, frankly. I mean, you could spend all the time doing that and you lose, and then going on the appointments, and it just, you run out of time in the day.
Yep.
So,
And you pretty much, so for I'll say the average, but most real estate investors are they're doing more wholesaling and flipping activity than you are at your number. You're doing what everybody wants to do, is just keep them all. Like I look back at the 100 houses that I didn't keep and be like, oh my God, I wish I kept them all now. Right. Of course, hindsight's 2020, but that's not going to change. I mean, the dollar's being destroyed. Like it's a great place to hedge inflation, is owning rental properties for sure. That's not going to change, right? But I think for the average investor, they have to scale up because they need that additional revenue to be able to pay for the team, right? You basically, that's how you offset your costs, is just through scale. For you not only have that, but you're keeping so many that you don't necessarily, and maybe your model's set up where you take some money off the table when you refi. You probably do that, right?
Yeah, I do that. Yeah, it's refinance.
So you
capital.
You get some kind of today money today, right? The case for scaling is to be able to build your team, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot there. The properties the rentals that I'm holding, the ones that I've had for 6 or 7 years, you can only refinance a single family home so many times. And with the appreciation, there's little business case anymore to keep those. So I'm selling some of those after 7 years, but rolling them into 3 units or 2 units or 4 units, just to kind of reposition the equity and make more rent on the same capital. So I'm investing in properties, but you hit the nail on the head. So I'm focused on acquisitions and property investment, and we retain all of them except for maybe a stray flip occasionally. But the real investment right now is people. So we invest in properties and we invest in people. And my sole focus this year is building out a team, even at the expense of a slower growth rate, because it's an investment in the future to have a team and systems and processes in place so that things just happen without me necessarily needing to send out all the letters myself. Like I was starting writing the letters myself, and you just run out of time. So investing in people and properties this year. Yep.
Yeah. That's awesome. And one thing I want you I want to point out here is you're in a relatively small market, right? And so a lot of folks, I mean, like sometimes scaling and operating in a small market they conflict a little bit. So how big is your market roughly? Like what's the rough population?
Yeah, so Lehigh and Northampton County, it's about 650,000 people in the two counties. So that's within like a 25 to 30-minute drive of me.
Yeah.
Including Berks County, where I also buy. That's another 400,000. So it's about 1 million people in this general area, but that's within an hour. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then as an engineer, maybe you could share some wisdom on putting systems and processes in place. I think a lot of people have the best of intentions, and they just don't get
Mhm.
to it because I was going to work on it tomorrow. I was going to work on it yesterday, and I came in and I got hit in the face with a pie or something. And next thing you know, you just don't get to it. And that seems to be a recurring thing over and over and over again. So as an engineer, I know you have a different mindset. Maybe you can share some tips on like how to chip away at those things for real.
Yeah, and I don't remember who said this, but I heard this on a podcast somewhere. I'm a recovering engineer. So, when I was in my engineering role, the reason why systems and processes are important, like from the level of someone trying to invest in real estate or get started or investing, I remember my engineering life for 12 years. We would get stuff from sales and it wasn't clear. We couldn't deliver on it. They wanted to put the equipment too close to this thing that we couldn't put it next to. And couldn't you just make it work? And there'd be missing information. And I was always the guy who had to deal with that. When it was unclear, when it was inconsistent, when we weren't doing the things that our standards said we needed to do, it caused pain or someone got hurt, which is the worst thing. And so I got to see what happened when things aren't followed, that we have a best practice. Here's what we do. And I saw how bad it hurt. Sometimes, unfortunately, actual recordable OSHA recordable incidents. And so when we don't do what we're supposed to do, whether it's a training reason, lack of clarity, just negligence, it causes pain. And so for me, systems and processes are about reducing pain. It's about creating clarity so that we can do more with less and more and deliver a better service to our customer at the end of the day so that there's more consistency, more clarity. So people hear that word and they think, oh God, another systems thing, another process, it just sounds so terrible. Like, why do I want to record this video and write this stuff down? And I agree. I even think that, and I'm engineering because it is a little tedious, but the process sets you free. So
yeah, that's exactly right. Can you build it
yeah.
out in a way to where you don't have to do it anymore, right?
Yeah. And so I try to do 3 to 4 things to really set up a clear process. So maybe I could dive into that quickly. First things first, like if I'm already doing something and I'm trying to build a system, I'll just record myself doing it. I'll just get a Loom subscription or I'll record a Teams meeting and I'll just record step by step and I'll talk out loud. I'll say, I'm doing this financial transaction, I pay it and here's how I do it in QuickBooks and blah, blah, blah. So I'll record it. Next, for critical processes, I will write an instruction set, step by step to supplement a video. And occasionally I'll record videos multiple times. The third thing that I'll do is clarify the frequency to do that thing, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, for follow-up. If it's a hot lead, follow up now. If it's a cold lead, every 30 days. And then lastly, what is the last thing that I do? Let's see. No, there's one other thing. Well, yeah, the course, record myself. Yeah. And then the frequency. Yeah. So those are the things that I look to do. If I think of the last one, I'll say it, but I just basically record everything I'm doing and hand it off.
And do you maintain like a hit list of like the things you need to create processes for, or do you just do them as you think of them?
Well, it's usually as I'm doing the task or what the most painful thing is.
Yeah.
So like what am I having a problem with that I need to focus my energy on? And that's what I'm focusing on to create the process.
Yeah.
But and what delivers the most value? So usually it's sales related things. How do I document a transaction? Taking it from start to finish. How do we coordinate that transaction? That's stuff I'm recording right now. It's just stuff that I'm doing. I just record and make a process for.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So hopefully that's helpful. But
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So Mathew, you've been a part of Investor Fuel, I think for 6 or 7 months or so now. Would you mind just sharing a little bit about your experience so far? And maybe as somebody that was leaving a W-2 job and jumping into real estate, really kind of full time, like what even drew you to Investor Fuel from the beginning?
Yeah, so I was drawn to Investor Fuel because I was looking to do deals at scale. And I knew that other members of Investor Fuel were doing that. So I wanted to get around those people and learn from them. And I got to say that it's been an awesome experience. It's been a great investment. And I remember the first meeting that I went to, it was mind blowing because all the things that I wanted to do, all the things that I was having problems with or pain points, everyone else was experiencing too. And so it was a little bit of the camaraderie, but also best practice sharing that was so valuable to me. And I remember in the middle of the meeting over the summer, last summer, I just decided, oh my gosh, I got to get a virtual assistant like now, because I have all this stuff and other people were doing it. And it just inspired me to get a virtual assistant for some processes, and just overall an awesome group of people, great group, and lots of best practice sharing.
Yep. And would you agree that like nobody holds back? Like if you need anything, you ask people in the group, and no, you've never heard anybody and never would hear anybody saying, well, I can't really tell you that, right?
Yeah, no. Everyone's super open, and just throwing the microphone around, and get it. Everyone's just super open and sharing, and willing to give.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, Mathew, if folks wanted to, you're doing some impressive things up there, and have built an amazing business. If folks want to connect with you in any way, whether they're kind of local or otherwise, like how would they reach out to you?
Yep. So I would say my website, which we can link in the show notes, and then Facebook, Instagram, our YouTube channel. We're really active, and just reach out, send a message through one of those channels, and I'd love to connect. I connect with a lot of it. I actually donate time to help new investors here locally get started in Allentown, and I'm involved in some philanthropy. So I'd really like to help anyone any way I can.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing your story today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Great,
Yeah,
great
good stuff.
speaking with you.
Excited to see where you take things from here, my friend.
Yeah, likewise. Yep. Can't wait to keep working with you and see where Investor Fuel takes us all. So
Yeah, I appreciate that.
yeah.
Everybody,
Thanks,
hope you got some good value from today. Matthew's really built an amazing business, and we have a community of hundreds of amazing people like Mathew that are big givers, sharing, betting on themselves and betting on each other like every single day, right? And so if you haven't yet talked to us about Investor Fuel, just go to investorfuel.com to learn more. You can schedule a call there with us and see if you're a fit for our group and if we're a fit for you. Until then, we'll see you on the next show. Are you an active real estate investor? If so, and you want to latch on to the power of surrounding yourself with over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors, all committed to building stronger businesses and living richer, fuller lives, you should jump on a call with us to learn more about Investor Fuel. Simply visit investorfuel.com to get started.